There's a real sense of anticipation building around the New England Patriots right now, and it all starts with the direction this team is taking on offense. One of the most talked about moments recently came when Mike Vrabel was asked about Stefon Diggs, and his response wasn't just a casual reflection on a talented receiver. It felt like a statement about the identity this offense is trying to build moving forward. He acknowledged everything Diggs brought to the table: the reliability, the precision, the ability to make plays in critical moments. But what really stood out was his confidence in what comes next. Instead of framing Diggs as a missing piece that can't be replaced, Vrabel leaned into the idea that this system can recreate that level of production. That's a bold claim, especially when you're talking about a receiver who put up over 1,000 yards and was a constant factor in the passing game. But it also tells you how much belief there is internally, not just in the scheme, but in the players already on the roster. Efficiency became the key word in that conversation, and it makes sense when you look at how this offense operated. Drake may played a huge role in that efficiency. His accuracy, especially on deeper throws, separated him from a lot of quarterbacks around the league. There were stretches last season where he didn't just look good for a young player. He looked like one of the best at his position, period. That kind of performance naturally raises expectations. And when you combine that with Vrabel's confidence, it starts to paint a picture of an offense that believes it hasn't even hit its ceiling yet. What makes this even more intriguing is the emphasis on developing younger receivers. Instead of relying on one established star, the focus seems to be shifting toward building a group that can collectively produce at a high level. There's talk about molding players, expanding their roles, and finding creative ways to maximize their strengths. That approach can be risky, but it can also be incredibly rewarding if it clicks, because it makes the offense less predictable and harder to defend. At the same time, there's still that lingering question fans keep asking: is this enough? The conversation about adding another weapon hasn't gone away. Whether it's through a trade, the draft, or another move entirely, there's always that sense that one more piece could take this unit to another level. But Vrabel's comments suggest that the team isn't operating from a place of desperation. They're not just looking outward for solutions, they genuinely believe the answers might already be in the building. And that confidence isn't limited to the passing game. There's a growing belief that the offensive line is trending in the right direction, which could have a massive impact on everything else. A stronger line means more time for May, more opportunities to stretch the field, and a more consistent run game to keep defenses honest. When you start connecting all those dots, it becomes easier to understand why there's so much optimism about what this offense could become. Shifting over to the defensive side, the tone of the conversation changes a bit, but there's still plenty to be excited about. The secondary looks solid, with players who have already proven they can compete at a high level. The linebacker group feels stable as well, giving the defense a reliable backbone. But when you get to the defensive line, that's where things become a little more complicated. Losing a key presence in the middle is never ideal, and it naturally raises concerns about how that gap will be filled. On top of that, the edge rushing situation has been a topic of debate for a while now. Generating consistent pressure is critical in today's game, and it's an area where this team knows it needs to improve. That's where Harold Landry comes into the conversation, and his situation adds another layer of intrigue. Landry's journey has been anything but smooth recently. Injuries have slowed him down, and there were moments where it felt like he couldn't quite regain his rhythm. But despite those setbacks, there were still flashes that reminded everyone what he's capable of. Vrabel highlighted the work Landry has been putting in during his recovery, and it sounds like there's real belief that he can return to form. If that happens, it could change the entire dynamic of this defense. A healthy and motivated edge rusher can disrupt offenses in ways that don't always show up on the stat sheet. It forces quarterbacks to make quicker decisions, it creates opportunities for others, and it brings an energy that can elevate the entire unit. Landry also brings leadership and experience, which are just as valuable in a locker room setting. There's also something to be said about the mindset he's bringing into this season. After dealing with injuries and criticism, there's often a renewed sense of purpose. Players in that position tend to come back with something to prove, and that kind of motivation can be powerful. If he channels that the right way and stays healthy, he could end up being one of the most important pieces on this defense. All of this ties back into a bigger picture. On both sides of the ball, there's a clear theme of belief in development, belief in internal growth, and belief in the system that's being built. That doesn't mean the team is done making moves, far from it, but it does suggest that they're not relying solely on outside additions to fix their problems. And then, of course, there's the topic that refuses to go away. Whenever discussions about improving the roster come up, certain names start circulating, and one of the biggest continues to draw attention. Vrabel didn't shut anything down when asked about potential moves to strengthen the team. Instead, he kept the door open, emphasizing that they're willing to explore every possible avenue to get better. That kind of approach keeps the conversation alive, especially when there are reports and speculation swirling around. It creates this ongoing sense of possibility, where fans are constantly wondering what the next move might be. And as those questions continue to build, the overall picture of what this team could look like by the time the season arrives becomes even more fascinating. As those possibilities continue to swirl, the conversation naturally shifts toward one of the most intriguing names being linked to potential movement, and that's A.J. Brown. This isn't just another rumor floating around for the sake of headlines. The way this situation is being discussed, especially behind the scenes, gives it a different kind of weight. When Mike Vrabel was asked about the idea of adding a player like Brown, he didn't dismiss it or try to shut it down quickly. Instead, he leaned into the broader philosophy he's been consistent with, doing whatever it takes to strengthen the roster. That response alone is enough to keep people talking, because it signals that nothing is off the table. It doesn't confirm anything is happening, but it certainly doesn't close the door either. And in a league where timing and opportunity can change everything overnight, that openness matters. Teams that stay aggressive, that keep exploring every angle, are often the ones that find themselves in position to make impactful moves when the moment is right. At the same time, there's another side to this situation that adds even more intrigue. From the Eagles' perspective, the messaging has been steady and controlled. Every time the question comes up, the answer points in the same direction, reinforcing that A.J. Brown is still part of their plans. It's the kind of response you expect, especially when dealing with a player of that caliber. But even with that consistency, it hasn't been enough to completely silence the speculation. Part of that is because of the reports suggesting that Brown himself has at least considered different possibilities. When a player of his stature is rumored to have preferences or a list of teams he'd be open to, it changes the dynamic. It introduces a layer of uncertainty that fans and analysts can't ignore. And when the Patriots are mentioned in that conversation, it naturally fuels even more excitement and curiosity. From a football standpoint, adding a receiver like A.J. Brown would immediately reshape the offense. You're talking about a player who brings physicality, explosiveness, and the ability to take over games. Pairing that kind of presence with a quarterback like Drake could create a combination that defenses would struggle to contain. It would also take pressure off the younger receivers, allowing them to develop without being forced into roles they might not be ready for just yet. But as exciting as that idea is, there are still plenty of hurdles to consider. Financial implications, trade compensation, and overall roster balance all come into play. These are not small details, and they're often the deciding factors in whether a move actually happens. That's why, despite all the buzz, there's still a sense of caution when discussing the likelihood of a deal. Even so, the fact that the Patriots remain part of these conversations says a lot about how they're being viewed right now. There's a growing perception that this is a team on the rise, one that could become a serious contender with the right additions. That kind of reputation can be powerful when it comes to attracting talent, whether through trades or other avenues. While all of this is unfolding, there are also smaller discussions happening that could end up having a significant impact. One example is the idea of adding another young receiver through a trade. Names like Jordan Addison have come up in different circles, and while nothing concrete has materialized, it highlights the team's willingness to explore multiple paths. Addison, with his background and skill set, represents the type of player who could fit into this evolving offensive structure. The interesting part about these potential moves is how they align with the overall vision. It's not just about bringing in big names for the sake of making headlines. It's about finding the right pieces that complement what's already in place. Whether it's a proven star like A.J. Brown or a younger player with upside, the goal remains the same: building a balanced, dynamic offense that can adapt to different situations. And that brings everything back to where this team stands right now. There's a mix of confidence and curiosity surrounding the Patriots. Confidence in the players who are already there, in the coaching staff, and in the system being developed. But also curiosity about what could still be added, what moves might be made, and how those decisions will shape the future. Every comment, every report, every hint of a possibility adds another layer to the story. Fans are watching closely, trying to read between the lines, trying to figure out what's real and what's just noise. And in the middle of all that, the team continues to move forward, preparing for what they believe could be a defining season. The balance between patience and aggression is always tricky in the NFL. Move too fast, and you risk making decisions that don't pay off. Move too slow, and you might miss out on opportunities that could have changed everything. Right now, it feels like the Patriots are trying to walk that line carefully, staying ready to act, while also trusting the foundation they've been building. As the off-season continues, the intensity of these discussions is only going to increase. The closer it gets to key moments, whether it's the draft or other roster deadlines, the more pressure there will be to make decisions. And with so many different directions this could go, it's impossible to predict exactly how it will all unfold. What is clear, though, is that this team isn't standing still. There's movement, there's intention, and there's a clear desire to take that next step. Whether that involves a blockbuster addition or a series of smaller, strategic moves, the goal remains the same: to build a roster that can compete at the highest level and keep evolving as the season approaches. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our New England Patriots. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFL world is buzzing after a controversial comment from one of the Houston Texans' most prominent stars. In a statement that has quickly circulated through social media and sports talk shows, the player claimed, Patriots coach Mike Vrabel isn't Bill Belichick. While on the surface this might seem like an obvious observation, insiders say there's more to it than meets the eye. Sources close to the Texans suggest that the remark wasn't just casual banter. It's being interpreted as a thinly veiled challenge, sparking speculation about possible tension between the star and the Texans' own coaching staff. Analysts are dissecting the comment from every angle. Some believe it reflects the player's frustration with the team's current leadership, subtly hinting that Vrabel, despite his credentials and a successful playing career with the Patriots, hasn't yet achieved the kind of strategic genius and long-term dominance that Belichick built in New England. Others argue it's a classic example of an athlete testing the waters, throwing a provocative statement to gauge public reaction and perhaps even stir potential trade discussions. The Texans, who have been under the microscope for their handling of star players, may now find themselves dealing with added pressure, both internally and in the media, to manage egos and maintain locker room cohesion. Meanwhile, Patriots fans have jumped into the debate with typical fervor. Many defend Vrabel, pointing out that comparing any coach to Belichick, a man widely regarded as one of the greatest NFL minds, is an unfair standard. However, the remark has also ignited whispers around the league. Could a move be in the works for the Texans star? Scouts and insiders are now examining everything from the player's contract situation to potential suitors, while commentators speculate on whether this could be the start of a larger rift. The timing of the comment, coinciding with ongoing discussions about roster adjustments and draft strategies, adds fuel to the fire. What's undeniable is that the statement has captured the imagination of fans and pundits alike. While some view it as a harmless jab, others sense an undercurrent of discontent that might influence team dynamics moving forward. For now, the NFL rumor mill is in full swing, and every interview, tweet, and sideline interaction is being scrutinized for clues. Whether this will escalate into a major storyline or fade as a fleeting comment remains to be seen. But the conversation around the Texans star and the shadow of Belichick's legendary coaching continues to dominate the chatter across the league. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our New England Patriots, be sure to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.